2026 regular meeting of Peters Township Council to order. Mr. Lauer, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Waldinger.
Here.
Mr. Steigel.
Here.
Mr. Curry.
Here.
Mr. Kozer.
Here.
Ms. Shanafeld.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
I have not heard from Mr. Minzay.
He's out of town.
Yeah, I think he was out of town.
Stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 23rd, 2026 meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Special reports, Peters Township 2026 Deer Management Sharpshooter Program Report.
Good evening, sir.
How you doing? Quick breakdown. We finished up the sharpshooting here mid-February. Just give you a little summary of the program. This year, archery season, we had 34 archers, same as last year. Removed 48 deer from the program there. In February, we began sharpshooting with 3 members of the police department. Sharpshooting occurred over 9 shifts from February 1st to the 15th, and we were able to remove another 250 deer from the township. That was the allotted tags by the Game Commission. So that averaged about 28 deer per night for the sharpshooting efforts. That's kind of the gist of the program. If anybody has any questions or concerns.
Jason, you would have talked about the map that you provided?
Yeah, the map there, as in years past, I completed a map kind of with the locations. That's combined totals of the red dots are the accidents, and the kind of the gray squares there are the number of deer we removed. That's combined archery hunting and sharpshooting in those areas.
Wow.
What was the final tally on deer-related collisions?
This past, 2025 ended with 87. So our historical high was 96. We're coming down incrementally from there. This is the 5th year. You know, we said we'd kind of reevaluate after 5 years of this. The one thing that we're continually up against and is just development. Where the accidents are increasing and the deer get pushed from, and we're kind of just adjusting based on that. And we get a significant number of resident complaints and requests for deer management. So we, if the properties are feasible, we try to address all of those also.
The density along 19 is just incredible.
Yeah, the density on 19 is incredible. When we do, we have a lot of businesses and some residents in those areas that reach out to us consistently about deer management. It's just a matter of finding feasible, safe properties. That's one thing that we're always looking for in that corridor there, because we try to, obviously focus our efforts in those areas, but we're kind of limited to the number of safe areas we have to.
What's that property up the top where you got 31 on?
That's a combination of a couple properties. Actually, there's some private properties throughout that area. A few residents have contacted us in that area, and that was primarily sharpshooting. That area there was in response to some, it kind of took care of East McMurray, and then I think there was, my assumption is the influx into deer in that neighborhood was because of some of the development and Sugar Camp and some of the other areas that kind of pushed them up into there. We were getting a lot more complaints from people in that area, so that was kind of in response to all that.
There's a lot of them, man.
I'm thrilled about the 23 by me.
17 in my backyard.
I used to have a herd, but they don't come anymore, so you must have killed them all.
Yeah, that's a tough thing for us to track. We hear a lot of good feedback from residents. They say, hey, we're seeing less deer, things like that, and that's kind of one of the things we try to go by.
I'm just wondering how many of those, like, if you look down that 19 corridor, we got 23 over there, and I can't see, it's too small, but then you got 15. I wonder how many of those are coming from like Cecil in, you know?
It's
Because,
very possible.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
Yeah, 'cause if you look-
Boundaries.
huh?
Deer no.
No, they don't know about it, but I'm saying, if you really look at like where the accidents have and what we harvested, it doesn't seem like, you know,
I mean, ideally, as we move through this, I think, you know, we would not be opposed to kind of bringing the program down a little bit to focus on 19 or some of those areas, if that's what,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
council so decided. I mean, we always did, you know, kind of set 10 shifts as our boundary. February's a relatively slower time of the year, especially on night shifts, so we think, hey, that's a good time, we'll dedicate 10. And it doesn't affect patrol staffing or anything, this is in addition to patrol staffing, but it seems to be a good time of year, and we just kind of use, kind of earmark 10 shifts for us to go out and do it. This year, it only took 9 to fill the tags, so we finished after 9 shifts.
And all that meat was donated.
Everything was donated. Again, another 11,000 to 12,000 pounds of meat donated to local food banks in Washington and down into Greene and Fayette counties. So every bit of it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks very much. Okay, next we'll move into audience comments. This is the portion of the meeting where any member of the audience can speak for up to 5 minutes on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone who wishes to speak?
Yes, sir. Anthony Brown, 123 Druid Drive. Was hoping if there was an update on changing of the ordinances or the enforcement of the ordinances on the book. I know that about a month ago, there was a discussion with Mr. Smith that there would be things that would be looked into that would possibly hold the developers much more accountable for their properties. Mr. Smith, have you been able to look at any of that?
If you remember, initially, one of the reasons we brought the people here that were going to do that work was to get them on the record as to what their plans were going to be.
You're talking about the cell tower?
Yes.
No,
Okay.
he's talking about,
Well, one leads to the other, so it's a good
what he's
topic.
talking about is the complaints about working on hours beyond.
I got you. So yes, I did that, I think, for last meeting. There was in my solicitor's report, a memorandum on that.
I'll be honest with you, John, I don't know that, so go ahead.
Okay, so in any event, what we looked at, there's 2 different avenues of pursuit here. One, the one we're doing now, which is to cite them and bring them in for a violation. We provided, I believe, in a memorandum, some case law that suggested that we could potentially, shut down the general over this, and they would have to go to the Construction Appeals Board. There is one case out there where that happened. The problem is, I think, is the gymnastics to do that in terms of, somebody's working on a Sunday that isn't allowed and the general gets their permit pulled. So that's really the question, right? Can we pull the permit short of what we're doing now is if the police are there on a Sunday, I believe ticketing them or issuing a violation notice where they end up at the magistrate level.
So as I see our township growing, I see more and more of these occurrences. I would guess that the first guardrail that I would hope council may look into is when they're at the permitting process phase, that they, as we've learned with the cell towers, people want to build here. People want to do business
But we
here.
do have ordinances that address that. So I think that's not your problem, right? Your problem is
Well, the
what's the
enforcement.
enforcement, right? But there's
So-
no more we can condition the permit on, the law is in place to
Right.
say you can't do this. It's the enforcement part of it. So I think the question you had is, can we do anything more than issue the violation where they pay a $500 fine?
Such as when they sign the permit, they're signing 2 conditions. So for instance, Lutz Farm. I think, are we providing, that's not a dedicated road yet, I'm sorry. Is that Mr. Zemaitis' area?
Not yet.
Okay, but they are receiving plowing services?
Per
And I
fee.
understand.
For a fee in the agreement.
Who decided on that, by the way? Was that a council
Yes.
approval? or-
Yes, we've been doing that for years. People move into those homes, and there's an expectation that, in fact, they can get out in wintertime, so.
Which I think is a perfect example. So I know that some school buses come up. I know that the majority of them get dropped off. It's not a dedicated road yet, so the developer wouldn't want to be impeded. They want to sell those homes. They want real estate showings. They want plowing and things of that nature. So there seems to me to be a lot of things that they will want to agree to, and we would then have some oomph in our signing of the permit that upon certain levels of violations, these things can occur, such as, and I wrote y'all, I did get one response, two responses from two of the councilmen. Maybe at a certain point, you put in there, we have the right, until that's a dedicated road, to institute possibly a gate. So if you constantly are in violation, we could put the gate up. And that would be a real problem for them, in my mind.
So it would be a problem for emergency services as well.
Yes, it would. So I'm looking for reasons. There was another police report, and I did speak to, is it Mr. Bowles? Mr.
Yes.
Bosley?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have a good, I'm trying to understand why he isn't the main interface with these guys. Because we kind of came to an understanding that there could be some more vociferous activities done. The last one, there was a police report. By the time the police showed up, the two trucks had already left. I don't know who spoke to who. I think Mr. Bosley thought that you may have spoken to Mr. Rost, and maybe he agreed, hey, we'd look at it. But the next night it happened again.
Oh, no, it was after that, I spoke to Mr. Ross. You know, the developer and the builder on most of these plans are two different people. And so who you can, I think, hold responsible is the builder, because that's who holds the building permit. And in this particular case, those homes are all in that area, in that section of that plan, are all being built by the same builder. And that's what prompted me at that point.
And you're out of my level of expertise, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for accountability. I don't want the guy on the roof on Sunday doing what his boss getting told, getting a ticket. I don't even know if it was paid. I don't know if he showed up. I want the developer, the builder, or whatever, somehow incorporated in our ordinance so we have some power to do something. I know that a couple of you saw the email, and we have a couple residents, they're just like, nobody does anything about this. I've been complaining for 4 years. I'm tapping out. So let's give them a reason to be in. And that's what I'm looking for. If you can find ways to put in the permitting process some hammer, a velvet hammer, and we aren't shying on enforcing it. Not the guy on the roof. I'm glad you said the builder. Can we look at those things? Can council direct us to look at those things?
So I think we kind of did that, Mr. Smith, didn't we? We asked for some other options.
Yeah, we can, and again, what was, at least one case had reported where they went after the permit, and I think that's what you're looking for, the ultimate lever. The permit holder is the builder, not the sub.
And what happened in that case, I'm not familiar.
It wasn't a Peters case, it was just a
Oh.
case, I put a memorandum together. And in that particular case, my recollection, it was last month, but they then appealed that to the UCC board. It was somewhat drastic as to whether you could, we usually pull permits for building code violations or don't issue occupancy because that's really what we're looking for. I get it, this was actually more of a zoning ordinance enforcement of the building, within the building permit world.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you
In terms of hours of operation, that kind of stuff.
if you have any advice as to any verbiage we can include in the permitting to get it approved for permitting, that they are of recognition and what the ramifications are of not following ordinance. As Paul said before, these guys don't care. They're just gonna keep doing it again and again if they gotta meet their deadlines. So if they have a $10,000 chargeback for not meeting the deadline, they don't much care for a $500 ticket.
No, I get it, and again, our building inspector is looking at code issues, right? They're building the building correctly. This is a zoning side, and that's what I was looking at, the interplay between the two. I'm not sure we could build into the building permit anything more. It's just really probably gonna test the tolerance level of the township as to whether we wanna go after and the actual permittee.
But like we found out in the cell tower, they agreed as part of their agreement with us. maybe these guys will agree to sign off on conditions of getting a permit if we offer it.
Tony, if I could jump in.
Yes, sir.
So I think we're at the exact same place we were at the last meeting, where Mr. Brown is coming with the exact same concerns, and we're telling him the exact same thing. Oh, yeah, we can look at that. John, do you need an action from us to direct you to do it?
No, because remember, it's our zoning officer or our code enforcement person.
Well, I guess what I'm asking you is maybe for a report or something that tells us what the absolute maximum penalty that we can use.
The maximum penalty, what I recall, I'll go back and look at the memorandum, is to go after the permit and pull the permit for a violation. That's very drastic in terms, especially like a first offense, somebody works past 7 o'clock or whatever the time periods are. This is the zoning world, right? So we have a zoning ordinance that puts in the hours of operation and when you can work. The building permit is, again, a little bit different, but just has to comply with that. But at least in this particular case, they pulled the permit and went to the UCC board, and that's what they had to fight it out, to enforce the zoning side of it.
I think we have to build a more,
I know what you want. I know you want more enforcement on the building permit for violating the zoning side of the world. I get it. What makes them stop and comply? And there is the potential that we implement, the penalty of, say, we're going to pull your permit. It may be the council wants to put together some sort of warning system that, hey, send him a letter. If he does it again, we're going to pull your permit.
and we need somebody assigned here. So when I talked to Mr. Bosley, he'd been getting complaints on varying things for 4 years, but it's never bubbled up here. It takes a loudmouth like me to bring it, but by the time I come on up here, we got people tapping out.
Well, remember,
I really
council's
would like-
not going to really, the laws are in place. It's just a matter of enforcement. And this is just, I don't want to say an odd one, because you're right. I mean, people are being affected, but we have our building inspectors who go out and looking to make sure the footer's in right or the walls are built correctly.
Yes, sir.
The zoning officer should be going out to enforce, and it's usually the after hours on the weekend when they're not working. And that's why the police are noting the report.
So the excavation was a real problem. Mr. Bosley got a lot of calls on that. A grad party had to be disbanded because they weren't following proper watering procedures as the dust and debris kept flying up into all of our backyards and so forth. But you guys never hear about that. I want one person.
So does anybody on council have any opposition to us instituting a one warning, pull the permit after the second infraction?
I do. I don't think that's appropriate. Do we have any statistics that show how many violations happen like that? Like you got a developer or a builder A, and he's building 10 houses. How many times does that happen? Do we have any statistics? Because to me, it makes absolutely no sense to sit here and talk about this unless we know. It's not the guy that occasionally does it. It's where they're abusing it.
Right.
Then the remedy is we're going to pull your permit.
Right, and that's
Right?
the thing.
And nothing speaks louder than that.
And
You
what-
can't penalize them anymore by than pulling the permit, which means they can't do any work, even from 7 to 9 or whatever the hell whatever the hell it is.
Right, and so I think that's what Mr. Stein was getting. What's the threshold?
You just argued exactly what I said. I'm
I think-
confused.
No, I'm not saying. I don't
No,
think
you
it's
said you're
right
right.
that they're going to get one warning when it's their sub.
I think
They need to-
you're
They
arguing
need to
about
be
the
accountable for
threshold.
their sub.
What's the threshold of when you move further?
Well,
And-
I don't think it's one violation.
And I agree, because, but I think we do need to talk to the zoning officer to see, or the building inspector. I'm not sure, Paul, who's getting those.
The zoning officer.
The zoning officer may have to come in and tell you how often, and then maybe, again, you take the temperature as to what's the threshold. Is it, Gary says, is it one? Is it several times? Is it per house? Is it per project? They have the ability, the building inspector can pull the, building permit, but I think they need some guidance as to what we believe is appropriate for some wayward sub, to your point, on one day.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
I
if
get
it's
it.
the same sub over and over again, you know what's going to happen if you say, hey, if you get 3 of these, right, from that sub, we're pulling your building permit. They're not going to use that sub.
But I do think what we probably haven't done is send the permittee a letter about the violation and threaten that, reprisal.
Well, that's what you have to do. You have to put them on notice.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm a developer, right? I want to make money. I want to, and I want to build here. Well, if I hire some contractor to go out and do something and he works on a Sunday and you're gonna pull my permit, you know, after a while, it's gonna be like, why build here? We'll build someplace else.
But respectfully, Frank, you're responsible for the sub that you hire. So appreciate that it might not happen a lot, but
You're
we
not
need to.
necessarily
No,
responsible.
you are, because you've hired that person, you've chosen the
Right, and
business.
if you know that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you're gonna get, they're gonna pull your building permit, you're gonna stop using that guy, right? But, you know, to penalize a developer or a builder because of like one sub did something, that he had no warning that that was gonna happen, I mean, that's ridiculous.
I think what we're saying is we need to document violations, and Gary's suggestion was one violation, on the next one it's pulled. Maybe it needs to be 2 violations, the next one it's pulled, but we need to have a process in place to police this stuff, because we have rules, we just don't enforce them, and folks like Mr. Brown comes here for 4 years complaining. I think that we need to do something about that.
So what are you gonna do if the guy's building 10 houses at the same time?
That's
And he has
exactly-
2 violations, one on this house and one on that house. Are you gonna pull his permit to build all 10 houses?
Are we
How
just
are you
gonna let him-
judge that? You can't.
But are we just going to let him continue to violate
No,
in
I'm not
perpetuity because he
saying
is
that.
building 10
I'm not
houses?
saying
You're not
that.
giving us an alternative.
I don't think there is an alternative. I think it's
So
one of
you're
those
saying we
things
can't
where you
penalize?
just have to play it by rule of thumb. I mean, if the guy keeps having his subs commit the same thing over and over again, boom, that's it, you pull the permit.
I think what we can't agree to is there has to be, beyond just a notice of violation to the sub, an immediate letter to the builder, threaten the potential action of the permit being withdrawn. But it's hard, like, I get it, Mr. Arcuri, with a hard and fast rule. You could have 3 different subs on 3 different houses doing 3 different things on a Sunday and not know. And right now, there's discretion obviously built in that isn't working to the satisfaction of council or Mr. Brown.
Well, the first point he made, I really liked, because you said, how do we know if that guy's got 10 violations?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, I agree with you.
So that's
Listen,
what I want.
I'm on your side. It's just, I think to pull somebody's building permit.
No, I don't want to go there
Listen,
yet. I want to stick
I
with
think
your
it should
first
be,
one.
it should be the, you know.
But we don't have
stick,
a process.
The carrot and stick or whatever.
Let's argue about the tiered system maybe, but
How are you
we,
gonna keep track of who does
this is what
what?
I'm asking you.
I have no idea how to do that.
Okay, well, how should we handle this? When I talk to varying people, they have no idea about the calls made 3 and 4 years ago. We don't have a process here, a consistent
Well,
process.
Maybe that's what we need.
And that's what I,
So
if
can
we
track
had
that,
one,
and then
I could
agree with-
re-engage some of my neighbors that have tapped out because they keep saying nobody does it.
No, I agree with that.
So-
And I agree with
so,
what
Mr. Smith.
said, that way you know, you can send them a letter and say, hey, listen.
Yeah, and again, the big jumping point here is whether we can pull a permit for a zoning
I
violation.
think that's a serious question.
Yeah, and that's why there's one case out there that they did it, and it went to the UCC board. But that is really the question, because right now, the implementation is we cite them, just like any other zoning violation, we take them to the magistrate.
And
Are you
where did that
limited by
case end
law?
up, John?
I think it stopped at that level, but I have it, let
It
me send
did?
it to council, I did a memo on it, and I think a month.
So there's
or
no
ago.
Pennsylvania appellate court case that addresses
I don't
this?
believe it's,
Are you limited by law on how much the fines can be? Like,
zoning,
can it be an
yes.
Yes.
elevated fine?
I think it's no more than
Yeah.
500 under the PC.
So even if it's a 10th time, it's still under the same ordinance?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's really.
Maybe
the-
if you
the
build it in the
sticking point.
permitting process right up front, like the cell towers, maybe when they're the ones signing off, agreeing to it, and what you said, that's exactly what Mascaro, Massaro, Dick, all these people do. They are responsible, and they hand the ordinance to the subs, and they said, you violate, we get fined, we're charging you back. That's where we gotta be. Otherwise, you know.
Yeah,
there's
so
no
it doesn't
stick.
happen often, only one time I've seen it in a written finding, and I'll circulate that to council, but otherwise, that's what the township's doing, right? Because the permit, we look at whether you're complying with with the building code, not with the zoning code.
Yeah, I think we need to have a consistent process of who's handling this.
But if nothing else, we should be alerting the general that this is happening and for him to sit on his
Well,
cell.
what's been happening with Lutz, has anybody talked to them, the builder, the developer, the permit holder?
Yes, I have.
Can you relay what has occurred there?
Well, I explained to Mr. Rouse, who's a vice president at NBR, what the problem was. He told me he would address it.
And you think that happened after the last police report?
I know it did.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Anybody else
But
want to
Mr.
speak?
Steigel, to
Yes.
your request, we'll bring you something in writing
Yeah, 'cause-
at the next meeting, if not, the meeting following.
Yeah, because
Explain.
it gets old, the constant
Yep,
emails that we
I-
get. And, I mean, I didn't even see a response from you on the last one.
I did not respond to the last one, and I'd be honest with you, I'm not familiar with the last one that came out, so.
didn't get one. I didn't get one either.
Did you send it to everybody? I know I saw Paul on it.
I think I was on it, wasn't I on it? Tony?
Yes, sir, Mr. Holdren, and Mr. Bosley.
Yeah, but,
And Paul Bosley has talked
Yeah.
to me a couple times, and Mr. Holdren talked to me a month ago.
but we'll get you something in writing for council to look at.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Well, lady and gentlemen, I haven't amused you for a while, so I'm going to do so tonight. I want to know who sets the speed limits for the township roads? How's that determined?
PennDOT sets them.
PennDOT. Because it's not a complaint. It's just, I don't understand why Turkey Foot, okay, has a 25 mile per hour speed limit, and those houses set up high, and there's nothing on the left-hand side that you could run into, because when you first turn onto Turkey Foot off of Bebout, there's just farmland there, and then you come, there's those trees, pine trees, and then up above, there's nothing, okay, when you get to the stop sign. You take Hackett on Venetia Road, you know, my God, as soon as those people step out their door, they could get struck by a car. It's like back in the olden days when they had the doors right by the road so the carrier. Well, whatever. All I'm saying is that speed limit's 35. And I travel Turkey Foot a lot, okay, because I work in Pittsburgh and I go that way to get into Pittsburgh, that a different side of Pittsburgh. And that's a busy road. And, you know, it's like everybody, we feel like we're going up that road at 25 miles per hour. So it's a little irritating, but so you're telling me PennDOT sets all these speed limits?
That's correct.
Okay, and what's the name of the road where they did put the stop signs at the bottom of King Richard? What's the name of that little road? Is that, that's Old Waterdam, okay, because I don't see a sign there. And what's the speed limit on that road? Because I don't even think there's one posted.
It's 20, is it 25?
35.
Is it 35?
Yeah, it's 35,
That's
That's-
actually the remnant of an old state road. If anybody was
See, this
alive
is
at
what
the
I'm
time,
saying. None of this makes any sense to me, okay? So there you go. You got the 35 and you got the stop signs, you know.
What I
And
find,
wait a minute,
Okay.
and so when I pull up, because I have not done my survey yet, I've been out doing petitions, okay? But when I start to do my survey, because I told you, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna count how many cars come up and down that road, okay? But when I come down that road, King Richard, and I pull up far enough, I can see Waterdam. So I don't even know what they're talking about. You can't, it's some kind of sight distance thing, okay? It's somebody who's not pulling up far enough. Just makes sense you have to pull up far enough and look down the road, because you can see Waterdam.
I don't disagree with you.
Yes. Well, that's the problem. They're saying that you had to put stop signs there because you can't see the cars coming up the road.
Who is they? Sorry.
The Township's traffic engineer.
You know, I don't know who these people are that do this. I mean, you know, you want to, it's the same with King Richard going up one way, coming down the other, you know? And I was thinking about that. Did you put one-way signs yet on that road? I don't think so, right?
No,
Decided
council
not
directed
to
us
do
not
that.
to.
Oh, you decided not to? Well, hallelujah, praise the Lord. Okay. So, you know, because I was thinking, all you have to do is put directional signs on that road. You
That
don't
would
even have.
confuse more people.
Well, who knows? I don't know. I don't know if it would confuse people or what, but I just can't believe that the state sets these. I don't believe it.
well, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong too, if we challenge it, then they'll do speed counts and set it at the 85th percentile. So if you have a 25-mile-per-hour road, or a 35, and you think it should be 25, but 85% of the people are going 55, they'll set it at 55.
That actually almost happened on V-Belt.
Right.
In the past, we've had requests to ask PennDOT to reduce speeds on certain sections, and they've done speed studies to say, the data shows we should raise the speed limit, and it kind of ends there.
Yeah, so you gotta watch it and ask.
What, on Bebout, they said that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because part of Bebout is what I believe 45, and then it turns into 40, and then it turns into 35. It's like, you gotta be like watching alongside the road while you're driving because he's speed limits. It's the same on Thomas Road. You know, when you come off of Johnston and you turn onto Thomas, you're going 35, and then you pass the Boy Scout thing? Yeah, as soon as you pass that, you gotta be watching because, you know, what is it, Lamplighter or something over, that's still 35, and then boom, it turns into 25. Yeah.
And the
So,
cop's sitting right to the left.
whatever.
Well, the other way, if you go the other way, it goes faster, I think. Doesn't it go up into the 40s, like 40 or 45? You make it
No.
right, like,
I think it
No,
used to.
that's all 35.
I think
No,
it
no.
used to, didn't it?
No, Waterdam is, that's all 30,
Oh,
when you get up to
35 up to
Waterdam.
Waterdam.
I'm okay with the stop signs up there on Waterdam, but I'm just, that turkey foot, there's nobody to complain to about that. Oh, finally, this makes noise. Okay, good, because I can't hear any of you. Talk louder.
Thank you, Ms. Shaner.
Do
Thank
a
you.
petition for Little and Johnston, man. All right?
What'd you say?
He's already talked about how they're doing the 45. Little and Johnson needs a stop sign.
They're doing 45 on a slow day there. Anybody else want to speak on a non-agenda item? All right, we'll move on to unfinished business, of which there is none, so let's get into new business. First item, resolution authorizing the appropriate township official to execute a cable television franchise agreement with Comcast.
So, under federal law and regulation, cable television companies operate within municipalities based upon a local approved cable television franchise agreement. Over the years, the discretionary powers afforded to municipalities have been greatly curtailed. As a result, the significant portions in the municipal cable television franchise agreement have largely been standardized. The Cohen Law Group, on behalf of Peters Township, as well as Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon, and Bethel Park, have been negotiating a franchise with Comcast. And so, you know, from, I think, the township's perspective, the most important part of that is that the franchise fees will continue to be 5% of gross revenues. And that's the same percentage that's in the contract with Verizon. Last year, those franchise fees between those two companies generated $473,000. In addition, there is a grant that is being given the township to support the public educational and governmental channels in the amount of $80,000. The term of the franchise agreement is for 10 years. The one thing that I would note is that that amount that we are collecting is continuing to slowly go down as people stream video services as opposed to having cable. And it's an oddity that same fiber or cable that comes into your house and delivers cable services is subject to a 5% franchise fee, but if it only brings in internet, there is no fee paid to the local municipality. So it's my recommendation that council pass a resolution which authorizes the appropriate township official to execute an agreement with Comcast.
Hey, Paul, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why is Comcast of Colorado and West Virginia and Pennsylvania, why do they have it? Isn't there just a Comcast in Pennsylvania?
I don't-
Why do they, is it just, I mean, it seems like an odd party.
I can't answer that question, Frank. I don't know.
Not that it matters
Yeah.
to this, but
Yeah.
it just seems strange to me that we're gonna start getting like, skiing programs or something. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 030126, authorizing the execution of the franchise agreement with Comcast, I guess by appropriate township officials.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, change order number 2 to the contract with Macero Construction for the Rolling Hills Aquatic Center Phase 1.
So on September 17th, we opened bids on Phase 1 of the Rolling Hills Aquatic Center, and on the 24th in 2024, council awarded a contract to Macero Corporation in the amount of $5,995,000. Prior to the bid, grant funding for a portion of the project with a maximum of $3 million was acquired by from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And as a side note, tomorrow we will be receiving the bulk of that, of the $2 million grant that we received under RCAP for this project. So that's finally, seems like it's come to an end. Council in April 2025 approved change order number 1 in the amount of $79,357. Before council tonight is change order number 2 in the amount of $127,006. If approved, the total cost will now be $6,201,364, which is 3.4% higher than the original contract amount. And the one thing that I do think it's worth remembering is that the second lowest bid submitted in 2024 was from DeMarco Construction for $6,545,000. Change order number 2 principally represents, in accounting for extra work performed by the Macero Corporation, their subcontractors for March 2025 through substantial completion on July 2025. If you want, we can, Mark and I can go through each of the items in the change orders and try to explain to you what they're about. But Mark and I both feel confident that this change order is appropriate and the amounts are a reasonable cost for the work that was done.
Paul, I guess I take issue with what you said about the next lowest bid. But it would have also, they would have also had these change orders because they were bad drawings.
I think some of that's
So that's
true,
not
but I think
it's
on the
not
first
justification.
4 items up, well, actually for the first 6 items up there, I'm not sure that would have been the case. But for the ones that are design emissions, you would have had those ads because there were items that were missed on the drawings that had to be installed, and there was a cost associated with them.
So these owner-directed changes, who is making that decision?
Mr. Zamitis and myself.
I also find it strange that Kimmel Bogret is they're the ones that produce the drawings, but they're the ones that are consulting, telling you whether or not it's appropriate to pay the change order.
But I think that's normal because who else are you going to besides the architect?
Yeah, most contracts read that the design professional is the initial arbiter of decision-making, so that's not uncommon.
And do we get any break from them for the mistakes they made?
Well,
I think there's a couple of deducts on it.
well, the deducts are actually, there were lockers that were called for in the drawings. We eliminated those lockers. They weren't needed, and so that was actually something that was eliminated. One of the problems when they were constructing this, there is a valve on the system that failed, and as a result, there were water bills and sewer bills in excess of what we would anticipate, and there's a deduction for that. That problem's been rectified. And there was a light pole that, where it was located, we think would have been a problem for its location with reference to the overhead power lines there. So we eliminated it, and that's what those 3 deducts are.
Can I ask a question? Correct me
Come
if
on
I'm wrong, I think.
Mr. Brown, you gotta come up because the mic's gotta pick you up.
Frank had, the first change order, if I remember, and you made the comment it might have been the same thing you're bringing up. I think it was about runoff water, and the charge was to tie it in to the current water runoff system. If I remember correctly, you said, wouldn't that have been standard? Shouldn't that be their cost? This is what I recollect, so correct me. And then it was like, well, the work's already been done. Let's not punish a sub that already did the work. So it seems like there's a few things that didn't get put in the drawings properly. Maybe they'll negotiate with you and not charge you the full fee for
Well,
all of it.
it says in here that there's 2 unresolved claims, category 4 claims, which would be
Oh, those,
design errors, no valid values. So what are those and what kind of dollar amounts are we talking about?
well, we don't know the dollar amount because we haven't been able to reach an understanding about those, but both of them relate to the roadway. When they designed the one roadway, and this is one that has thrown Mark and I, when they roughed it in, it ended up literally straight in front of a West Penn transformer box. And that was something that obviously the civil engineer on the job should have realized. So they had done a portion of that work already and had to relocate the road. And so what their request is to be compensated for that work, which I totally understand, but quite frankly, I don't think that's the township's problem. The other reason.
Who do you think should pay for that?
Oh, I think that's a problem for the design engineer.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
The other one is a similar problem where there was a CAD file. There was an issue with regard to the grading that was being done. I think it was on the other roadway. The other.
It was on like the back, the
yeah.
northwest corner of the park.
And when they shipped out the CAD file, the CAD file was in error, and the contractor, rather than realizing that, proceeded using it, which resulted in grading work that had nothing to do with the project, and had to be remediated. And I don't think that's the township's problem.
That would be whose problem, the contract?
Well, it's either the contractors or it's the design professional, but it certainly isn't the township's.
Okay, so when are they supposed to get back to us? It says, I anticipate a possible final change order at the conclusion of these discussions.
Well, I don't know when that's going to occur. There's additional work that still needs to be done out there by the excavator. The sedimentation pond that is located across the street needs to be worked on. It has to be finalized so that in fact it works as designed. They need to come out and do that work, and they're supposed to be out there in the next couple of weeks to do that. My guess is sometime after that, there's going to be an interest in sitting down and working that out. But
What else if they tell us that they're not going to work it out? Then what happens?
Well,
What are our options?
well, I don't
Take
think we
them
need
to court.
to worry. It's them bringing us to court, not us taking them to court.
Well, I think a lot of this is due to the flaws in the design. So I guess, Mr. Smith, what would a dollar figure look like for us to go after their errors and omissions?
Well, I guess, I looked at this, I asked Mark, I think I looked at this last year when some of these came up, and I had the same conclusion. The design professional on some of these, we discussed potentially be liable. I don't recall looking at their AIA contract, but normally there's an arbitration provision in it with us, and I suspect that's would be dictate that, because the other thing bad about arbitration, not to fault any of you arbitrators, is we have to pay for the judge.
Right.
And so that's an expense that's unforeseen. Depending on how many of these issues, I think there's a mandatory mediation option or
Yes.
requirement. It's been years since I've looked at this, but I believe we'd go to mediation first.
Yeah.
You're probably talking,
So-
5,000, 10,000 if we don't employ our own. I think we even talked about maybe getting a design professional to look at it from our vantage point,
But
architect-wise.
you're not going to prevail on what's here though, because when work is owner directed,
Well, I guess
when things are unforeseen, that occurs in contracts all the time. And on these other items where there's a design omission but a value added, if you total all those up, it doesn't come to a number that's gonna
Well,
be
I would say
worthwhile to pursue.
the rock encountered, we paid for a geotechnical investigation. There's no reason they shouldn't have known. that
There was some
rock.
explanation, Mark, if I remember. You want to explain? This has
Yeah,
been a while.
The
but-
geotech was done, if you recall on this, the bulk earthwork was done under the, I'll call it the Libroni contract, when phase
Correct.
one of Rolling Hills Park was done. So the geotechnical report really was for that bulk earthwork, but it was included in this Aqua Center, contract.
So why wouldn't it have been done to, at the very least, the bottom of the excavation and more reasonably to refusal?
Well, there really was, the way that the sides of that valley were cut and then flopped into the middle to make the building pad, you know, most of the Aqua Center, I'd say 95% of it is built on fill, you know, so there really is no risk there in excavating through rock. It just happened that on the edge of the Aqua Center, where that slope comes down, there were, you know, storm sewer pipes that go along the sides and then feed down to the, basically that Warrior's Way. That's where they hit rock, and that was like the one area of the site where there were no borings done to define that. Well, and, you know, and then, like I said, conditions changed from that original report. You know, you could argue that, well, you should have done another geotechnical report, that just would have cost more money.
Well, this is gonna cost a lot. I think the geotech, the additional investigation would be less than $35,000.
How many of those items were performed, or are they all to be performed?
They're performed.
They're done.
It's built.
So-
Everything on that list
Yes.
was already
Yes.
performed?
So if that's the case, I have a question about the first one, because the first one says that the architecture firm recommends approval in an effort of advancing the schedule. If it's already been done, what does that mean?
That was their commentary at the time, you know, 8 months ago when these change orders arose. We asked for their comment on them.
So these recommendations have already been taken, essentially.
Yes. I know no one likes change orders, but for a project this size and the change orders are 3.4% is not uncommon.
No, but there's valid concern that the reason we're being challenged is because an engineer didn't do his job correctly.
Like, for instance, the fire alarm changes, they did the design then didn't include enough, so they had to add additional scope to get the final certificate. Shouldn't they have known what was required to get the final certificate when they made the design?
That's probably not a good example.
That's not, because you gotta do, that's something that needs to be done, they didn't do that. It would have to be the other way around, like they wanted
And
too
fire
many-
marshals are
too much
typically-
fire stuff, and you could have saved 50 grand if they would have done their job.
What I mean is, had they done the design properly, they would have known what was required at that time.
We would have paid it.
Yeah, but we would have paid for that extra work, so.
But then it wouldn't have been a change
Well,
order.
that's not really gonna be I don't think that's really a damage.
Did the rules change for number 12 for the time they submitted drawings?
Yes,
That's
in terms of
20,000.
West Penn Power required
Yes.
rack equipment, West Penn Power in their specifications has two ways to be able to bring power in to a site. The design professional assumed that in fact you could do what West Penn Power said you could, and when they went to apply for electrical service, were told that they could not, that they would have to do it in a different manner, which required a cabinet being installed at the entrance driveway. What used to be allowed, and I don't know that West Penn allows it, although it's still in their drawings, is that you could mount the meter straight on to the transformer pad, but they don't permit that anymore.
So he designated, we hope that this one will fly, but if it doesn't, it'll be another 25 grand. We kind of knew that.
No, what everyone assumed, and I think within reason, is that what was in West Penn Power's design standards were actually what you could do.
Here's another one I get a kick out of. So $18,000, almost $19,000 for number 23. Grading of the site per plan would have left a significant depression adjacent to Warriors Way. Nobody noticed the big hole on the plan?
No, but no, we knew that depression was there. What occurred at the end of this project is that there were 3,000 yards of material that needed to be disposed of. And what was decided that if you connected instead of leaving a sediment pond that had been there, that if we connected the pipes, and that's all you're being charged for, is the actual installation of the storm sewers, that where it says temporarily closed, instead of having a giant dry pond there, we could level that out and make it usable area. So you didn't pay to move the dirt, you only paid to install storm sewers that were not part of the original drawing. It ended up with a much better end result than would have been had they attempted to dispose of that material by spreading the.
So it goes back
across
to
the
if they
thing.
would have properly designed the site, this wouldn't have been an issue.
It's not prop, I don't know if that's the right wording. I mean, everybody knew there was going to be a depression in that area, and it's been that way since the original project was designed. Year 2020, I think, was when we originally did that, but it just made for a much better site. You know, call it Monday morning quarterbacking or whatever, but when the extra dirt was on site and the idea was floated out, hey, we could, instead of hauling it off site, we could fill in this pond and, you know, if you just pay us to connect the pipes. It still makes a lot of sense.
So you just need a recommendation to basically.
Well, my recommendation is that Peters Township Council approve change order number 2 to the contract with the Sarah Corporation in the amount of $127,006.45.
What's the township's exposure if we don't approve this and we wait till the final numbers?
But I'm not sure what the advantage to that is, Mr. Curry, because I will not be sitting here recommending approval of those other change orders, and I don't think our position changes at all at that point. And I think if anything, if you end up in arbitration or mediation and you have these items, which I think clearly there's been value provided to the township, I think it might muddy the waters as to the items where we shouldn't be paying.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that Peters Township Council approves change order to number 2 to the contract with Macero Construction for the Rolling Hills Aquatic Center Phase 1 in the amount of $127,006.45.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
4-2, Mr. Lauer. Next item, award the contract for traffic engineering services for intersection improvements at the intersection of Meredith Drive and Bebout Road.
So the traffic impact fees are a municipal funding mechanism authorized by the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Municipalities can assess fees on new developments in proportion to the development's impact on the local transportation infrastructure. Funds collected are used to improve roadways, the goal of which is to offset a municipality's cost of providing adequate infrastructure to support the economic growth and development. So you can use these funds for construction, acquisition of right-of-way, engineering, legal costs resulting from right-of-way acquisition, planning, and analysis of the roadway sufficiency in the traffic service area. One of the projects that's in our capital improvement plan is improvements to the intersection of Meredith and Bebout Road. What we would propose is to authorize the traffic engineer to do a construction drawings and permitting necessary to improve the intersection at Meredith. What's shown here is a right-hand turn lane coming off Meredith Drive. One of the problems, if you've ever been up there for an event in the park, as everyone goes to exit, because of the people making that left-hand turn, the roadway backs up Meredith Drive. So what our thought is, if there was a turning lane there, so that people who were just making a right-hand turn could exit unimpeded, it would speed getting people out of the park. Our intention, although this drawing does not show it, our intention is that there would be separation. You'd actually have a pork shop at the bottom, so that in fact the people making the right-hand turn were pulled away from the people trying to make the left-hand turn, so it would improve sight distance. All of this, both in terms of the design, because it's on a local road, and the construction, which would probably occur next year, can be paid for with traffic impact fees. So it's my recommendation that council award a contract to traffic planning to design, for the survey design and permitting of these improvements in the amount of $36,000.
I'll make a motion, we award a contract to traffic planning and design for the surveying, design, and permitting of improvements to the intersection of Meredith and Baxter, and Beebot Road in the amount of $36,000. I have no idea where Baxter came from.
Meredith Baxter.
Meredith Baxter.
Are we talking about family ties tonight or something?
Not really, but it just sort of came out.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, discussion concerning the lease agreement between Peters Township and Thomas A. Robinson Family Partnership relating to property located at 330 Valley Brook Road.
So I've included the lease in the docket. One of the things that today, Mr. Smith was contacted by the attorneys that represent Mr. Robinson. They've asked for an opportunity to sit down with the planning staff as well as Mr. Smith to discuss this and bring it back to council. I would recommend that we give them that opportunity and we bring it back to you at the earliest.
They'll come before council. They would have been here this evening. We thought it would best, and we can circulate this letter that we received from his lawyer as to what they're up to. But I think, why don't we speak with them and see if they'll show up at the next meeting to address council as to their plans.
That's fine.
That's fine. Let's not let this drag on. It's been dragging on for,
Yeah.
what, 6 years now or however long?
Yeah, they had
it's
some
been.
explanation in here, but not a good one. It's the-
All right, so we'll table that, right?
You need a motion? Slovak Museum in Peters,
You didn't know that?
Slovak
that?
Society, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and it's open to the public?
Yes, it is.
Good thing you come to these meetings, Mr. Brown, see?
Yeah, and Tony,
I've never heard.
it's worth going to see.
Oh, man.
All right, do you need a motion to table that?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, discussion concerning cell tower overlay zoning.
So I think we're finally in a position to move forward with revision of the zoning ordinance to expand the number of locations where standalone cell towers are authorized to be constructed. Currently, the township restricts cell towers to industrial zone parcels, and those parcels are all shown in purple. In fact, that's why you see the towers down at Mr. Robinson's storage facility right off of Route 19, because that's the one location where they currently are permitted. What's being proposed is an overlay zoning district that encompasses township and school district-owned property. The thought is that the township or the school district could further control the impact of towers through the terms contained inside the lease agreement. So properties that we're proposing to be included in the overlay would be Peterswood Park, Rolling Hills Park, Venetia Park, Arrowhead Trail at the intersection of Brush Run Road, Peters Township Middle School, Pleasant Valley School, Peters Township High School, and Bower Hill School. So
What about the old middle school?
that, you mean this location?
Yeah.
We hadn't thought of that, but it could be included. I don't think it's,
You think it would make any difference?
I guess my
Not much
question there
spare
would be.
parcel there, though.
Yeah, I'm just think how close you are to what homes where, based upon how the building's sited.
Well, not only that, if the school district ever does get around to selling that building like we were told they were going to 7 or 8 years ago, then. Yeah, that's true. May make it unbuildable if there's a tower there.
So what we need direction from council so that we can draft an ordinance is, do we want to include the properties that we have listed here? And should any of the properties we've listed be excluded?
All of them.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Me neither.
Let me ask you this, Paul. Have we ever thought of how about the cemeteries in this township? Including.
Well, I can tell you the one tower company's actually approached the cemetery to do that. And again, the only downside of that is that they control the lease at that point. But if you look at the cemetery, one of the reasons why I think these work is that they're larger properties and you have the ability to move them away from residences. And you would have that same thing within the cemetery. So, I mean, that would be something, if we wanted to, we could talk to the cemeteries and find out whether there's actually an interest.
I mean, I think we should, because, I mean, you look at Forest Lawn and you look at
right in the
Queen of Heaven, I mean,
We're
they
in the
have a
middle of
lot of,
township.
lot of
Yeah.
empty acreage and less people are getting buried, so that, that acreage is probably going to stay empty.
Question, I believe it was North Star came in, they wanted one behind the fire department, and you guys did a great job, you pumped the brakes, and I think you invited all the cell companies in, and they created a map that I think they 80% was where they wanted to be placed.
Right. And
Could
this-
you match that up to that?
It pretty much does match up with that, Tony. I don't have that with me tonight, but that's why, particularly the one that sits up above Pleasant Valley, where the field is. If there's one that needs to be done, that one needs to be done. So that in fact there is cell service on that end of town, because there isn't right now.
So that map, when they had the meeting, is pretty accurate to this?
Yes.
And the red is the proposal? Is that
Yeah,
what-
again, Tony, I don't have that map with me, but
No, I mean on this one, the red is what you're proposing?
No, it's a
No.
check. The hatch.
I know on the docket it had lines on it, I'm colorblind.
Oh, no, what this is, Tony, this is a map that shows where you can place them right now. And if you're colorblind, if you look where the eyes are,
Yes, sir.
that's it. That's the only places in town where a tower can be built.
I don't have any issue with the parcels you want to add,
I don't
Paul, and I
either.
think we should reach out to the cemeteries.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, you don't have to table it because we don't have an ordinance.
Shit.
Okay.
Is that part of the comprehensive plan then?
No, this is going to occur outside the comprehensive plan.
Okay, Paul, which question were you on?
I was on one. If we can move to two.
You have a speaker, I believe.
Do you want to go through these first?
Yeah, let's
or-
go through these.
Okay. Right now, towers are subject to approval as a special exception, which means they go to the zoning hearing board to set conditions.
Negative.
Or to
Yeah.
approve, too.
No.
Yeah, and to approve. The question is, the alternative process that would result in the same is to bring them to council as a conditional use.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
that's where they're coming.
Okay.
Easy answer.
So the maximum height of a tower is 200 feet. So the question is a setback at 200 feet or 125% of the pole height, whichever is greater from the property line appropriate?
Well, aren't there fall radiuses and studies for that?
That's why the tower, the maximum height is 200 feet.
Or that's your proposal?
No, they won't be over 200 feet because as soon as they get over 200 feet, there's federal approvals involved, and the tower companies won't do that.
Wouldn't we rather have one at 205 than 191 like the fire department does, if they have a lot more responsibility in reporting?
This is for a cell tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted one on 191, they tried, for the reason you said, they try to keep it below 200 because they don't want to have the extra restrictions. I'm saying if you get up close to that, maybe we want them to be at 202.
Yeah, but ultimately, I
No,
don't think
but
that's our
they
call.
can't be above 200. They
How big is
won't
the
be
one
above
in that-
200. What's that?
How big is the one in Petersburg Park?
Well, I don't know
90
what
or
that
something, right?
says. What does it mean?
That's considered co-location because of the sports lighting there.
So if the thing's
Oh,
200
okay.
feet high, you only have-
So you
90-ish,
you
right?
can have cell towers elsewhere in the community if they're co-located.
Maybe, what, 250 feet.
So the one up behind Orchard Hills, is that 200 or does that go up into the FFA or FAA?
I think that, my guess is that that's over 200.
Okay.
Those, the setbacks, Paul, that's not, there's no state law on the setbacks, right?
So the setbacks are whatever we want to set them at.
So can't we just leave it like as broad as possible so that when they come for conditional use, we can set it depending on the nature of the neighborhood or whatever?
Well, we have to have specific
Well,
criteria that they have to meet.
But Frank, again, this gets back to this idea of the school district and the township being the leaseholder, because then it doesn't matter what the setback is, because as the leaseholder, you're gonna determine where that's going to be.
Well, that's true, that's true, that's true.
I think 125% of the pole heights.
Yeah, I like
should be,
that.
'cause you got a 200-foot tower, then you need a 250-foot setback, right?
25% buffer.
But if the tower's only 100 feet, I still think you want it 200 feet back off the property line. That's why it's written the way it is.
I don't know, if it's only 100 feet tall, I'd be fine with it being 150 feet off the
Oh,
line. If
I-
it falls, I mean, you still got 50
Oh, it isn't a
feet.
question of fall, it's a question of perception from neighbors.
200 feet.
Yeah, I mean, you're always gonna have neighbors
Can't
who are
you
gonna be
just say
upset.
200 feet or 125% of the pole height?
That's what it-
Whichever's greater?
Yeah, no, that's what it says.
So what's it, oh, it does say it, so what's the difference?
Yeah.
So, and I'm assuming that nobody wants,
If it's 100, it's
Sounds
still
good.
gonna be 200.
yeah.
I-
I'm assuming nobody wants a tower
Listen
that
to the-
requires
right here.
illumination.
Right, I don't.
So I think we're a yes on this one.
Okay.
Mr. D.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Bob Dornan, 107 Southview. You know, I only had to see, as a professional landscaper, I only had to see that tree study done in Germany where these cell towers killed the sides of trees after a number of years. And here you are wanting to put cell towers close to kids, close to our children in the township, children in the parks, like the one you stuck in Peterswood Park. The main beam of that aims right at that upper playground. And the main beam of these is where most of the energy is dispersed. So I think it's a bad idea myself. I think you're almost ahead to put in a monstrosity like they have on Bush Road in Upper St. Clair, or the one out by Trax Farm that's 350 feet tall or whatever, than to have all these cell towers and cell masts close to children. Because children are more vulnerable to health issues. And, you know, enough studies really haven't been done on the health effects of the radiation from cell phones. And the problem with the 5G compared to 4G is all these units have to be closer together. They have to be 500 feet apart, basically, instead of back with the 4G, they could be farther apart. So I just rethink that with, you know, instead of putting all this equipment close to your kids. I mean, if they're holding a cell phone to their head, that's one thing. But to introduce it to them without them asking for it is another issue entirely. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Dunn, you took readings on those mini ones, like in front of the school, right? And you were alarmed by
Yeah,
that?
they're actually two in front of the middle school already.
So what I'd ask is, if they find
Security
an
of our
area that's away
children at school
from the children,
use the cell
and they
phone.
build the bigger towers, will that reduce the number of minis, do we think?
gets them out of the main beam,
Can you guys talk
you know,
about
where
this?
the energy's directed.
Because I'm more scared of those minis.
All right, Mr. Lauer, what do we
Yeah.
do? What do you need from us?
I have the answer to my question.
Is that true, that maybe they won't have as many of the minis if you do the big ones? Or am I reading that wrong?
I think that what you will not see within subdivisions because of our underground utilities are those minis within the subdivision. The only place you're seeing those is like on East McMurray Road where there are existing telephone poles.
Yeah, they scare me.
Yeah.
All right, so you have everything you need from us on that, Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Well, there's the
Okay.
fourth question about the illumination, no?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, we already talked.
We did it?
I heard a no.
I think we all agreed nobody wants lights.
Nobody wants lights.
All right, payroll and bills, Ms. Schoenfeld.
I looked over the payroll and bills, and they look good. I approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0. Mr. Lauer, any correspondence we need to discuss?
No.
Anybody want to discuss any of the various board or committee or authority meeting minutes? Or
Not at this point.
Miscellaneous, comprehensive plan, set date for review.
So one of the things that I was going to suggest, since we have so many meetings coming up, is that we have another meeting with the steering committee coming up, and that's on April
Wednesday.
April
9th, 8th?
8th, yeah.
8th. So what I was going to suggest is rather than schedule another Monday, that we schedule a short meeting, a short agenda on April 27th, our regular meeting, and then do a presentation with council on the comprehensive plan at the end of that meeting.
Sounds good to me.
Sure.
I have a couple other things for you.
So public can attend that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's a council meeting, Ms. Shane. Of course you can attend.
Well, he said at the end of the council.
Yeah, we're going to have a workshop, and so, yeah, so it'll be advertised, everyone can attend. You have a
Save you a
meeting.
seat.
Meeting next Monday at 7 o'clock with the 3 members from the Peter Creek Sanitary Authority. The engineer interviews are scheduled for April 20th. In terms of the ambulance, the cut over to AHN is going to occur on March 29th. One of the things that we would like to do, and it's sitting at your desk, is to send out a letter and a frequently asked question sheet to everyone in town. The cost of doing that is slightly north of $8,000, but I think it's money well spent. I think it's an essential service that people need to understand what's going on. So with council's permission, we'd like to move ahead with that.
I don't have an issue with it. I think given the significance of the change, I think, that, and we can't count on the fact that all elderly residents are actually watching these meetings on television, so I think it'd be a good idea to get the word out to everybody.
I agree.
I agree.
Anybody disagree?
No.
All right.
One of the things that I would like to do is that at the next meeting to cut a check for the $640,000 owed to the VFW to acquire the building. You know, the last time we met, I get a little concerned what I get from the VFW in terms of, well, you know, if you haven't paid for it, who's handling the utilities? How are we handling the liability? I would just like to be able to be in a position to issue the check and the building be ours, and us deal with the ambulance service, both ambulance services in terms of the transition.
We getting a quitclaim deed from them?
Well, yeah, I don't think you're going to, and I had to talk to John about this. The property belongs to us. The building
Yeah, but
belongs to
they
them.
possess the building for 30, I think we should get a quitclaim deed from them, just releasing any rights they may have.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it. He hasn't asked me to look at
Yeah.
it, but I can look at that. I'm
I
with you.
mean, they
What's the
can't give us a
difference?
warranty deed because it's on our property.
No,
but
I
mean-
agree. I mean, what's the harm? I'd
Right,
rather
that
record
just
it.
releases any rights they may have in it, and we're free and clear.
Well, wouldn't they have to, you know, deal with, address the lease and say we'll terminate it? They already did that.
Is that part of your buyout with the, I haven't seen any paper on this yet, but
Because they're there because of the lease, right?
they built the
I don't think
You know
we have a
what,
lease.
we're gonna get John to figure this out, and we'll have an answer for you at the
Yeah,
next
let me
meeting.
look
As
at
I
it.
recall, there was no lease, right?
Yeah.
We just let them build the building.
No, there's
Because if
actually a
there is-
document.
There was an agreement.
Yeah.
But is it a lease? Okay, because if it's a lease, then we don't need a quitclaim deed, you just get a termination of the lease. But if it was just an agreement that they're allowed to build the building, then I think we need a quitclaim.
Well, because they built a structure with the fixtures, it's still worth a quick claim.
Well, if there's a, if the.
I'll look at the
If they're
lease.
there
I-
pursuant to a lease, then no, just get a termination
I
of
have-
the lease.
We'll get John to look at it, we'll use the appropriate instrument for
I mean, if you
But-
could get to that point, Paul, I have no problem with you paying.
Oh, no,
Well,
absolutely.
and the other thing is, the council needs to keep in mind, the way this is in the budget is that the intention is to go out and borrow these funds to be able to cover this cost. And so, one of the things that we will shortly be doing is taking proposals for a borrowing over a 10-year period, the amount of this property, so.
All right. Anything else under miscellaneous? Mr.
Yeah, just that you're aware, I delivered to Mr. McCarthy down on Fawn Valley the license agreement that you had asked us to draw up. He's gonna have a chance to review that. If he's fine with it, he and his wife will sign it. It'll be back on council's agenda for approval by council.
All right, very good. Anything anybody wants to see on the next agenda? We have an executive session?
Short one.
All right,
All right.
meeting adjourned.